Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So I'm a few days behind on the weekly video, but let's take a look. We'll start with ETH. You can't not. It's pushing all-time highs. It looks about as bearish as Zcash looks, or looked. You know, this is the type of slow bleed inverted that is just... it's painful for bears, obviously, here, but if I'm comparing this to something like Zcash, I don't know why that always comes to mind, but it does. It's the inverse bleeding that is just, it's hard to think of it as the most bullish thing, but I think it really is. Even though volume kind of isn't there, we'll look at that. For me, the ETH charts are pretty simple. You know, if I like the moving average multiplier, which I do, then it's 4,400. This is going to keep moving up slowly over time. How this works is down here is the 365 MA, which historically has caught the bottoms quite nicely. The red line is 5 times the green line, and it's caught the tops quite nicely. Picks the bottoms, picks the tops. I don't know what else you want in an indicator, really. So this says to me, between whatever the top is going to be, and maybe we get a little extra out of it, but historically we haven't. I'm not on board the 10K train just yet, but I can get on board the 4K train based on this. We go to 10K, it's gonna look really strange. I don't know. I feel like being bullish ETH is super crowded right now. As bullish as the chart looks, it just feels crowded. So I don't know if we can make it past 45. So I don't know. Bit strange. And ETH BTC, just, you know, it's just a pitchfork really. I traded this poorly, but it is what it is. As far as rotating out of BTC and into ETH effectively, the issue with these BTC charts on every pair for the most part is it's just relentless. You're either wrong or you're right super quickly, and there's kind of no place to get in. Everyone was looking at this horizontal, so I can understand why it is bullish now above that. It also broke above this median line of the pitchfork that I've been watching for a few weeks now. So I like 085. 095, whatever the yearly pivot is. But ultimately, if ETH hits 42, BTC's multiplier is at 83, and doing the math on that, it's 0.5. It basically is what the ETH BTC ratio comes out to. So I think this will probably settle down around 0.5. The question is obviously, you know, does it pull one of these? We see these on LTC. We see this on virtually every single altcoin where it's just massive rotations back and forth. So obviously the question is, does this 2x before it settles down? Does BTC ever catch up? What's the catch-up situation like? But overall, ETH is just, I mean, there's nothing to say. It's just a trend. There's kind of been no place to get in realistically on the daily cloud other than late March, because it hasn't really pulled back. You know, BTC pulled back much harder late April than ETH did. ETH was up like 44% in April, just something disgusting like that. And it never broke below the previous all-time high. Just draw horizontal here. You're getting a W, support retest, you get another W, and we didn't actually get a support retest here. It's just somebody, looks like somebody just TWAPing or just, you know, DCAing in with a big purse. Volume has been mediocre, but it's been enough because there's just been no sellers. So there really hasn't been a counter to the little buying that there is. You know, we can say maybe notionally this is quite substantial, but it's not exuberant. You know, it's not January type buying, right? It's just slow grind. It's as bearish as you'd want anything slowly bleeding to be. It's just slowly melting up is what maybe some people would consider it. Looking at transactions, it's no surprise with transactions continually rising past all-time highs that price is rising as well. This is kind of why you pay attention to stuff like this as far as on-chain analytics are concerned. They raise the gas ceiling, fees are way down, gas is way down. Average fees in the fill here though are still quite high, and if we look at, I'll get to the miner revenue in a second, but miner revenue is still at all-time highs. Active addresses also at all-time highs. NVT multi-month lows. So even though price is where it's at, NVT, which measures on-chain activity versus market cap essentially, is still saying this isn't overbought yet. So between transactions, active addresses, and NVT collectively saying this still looks really good. Maybe there's an intraday or intra-week like bearish relief rally, but it looks like you're seeing exactly what you want to see in anything. The network effect is quite strong. ETH exchange reserves continue to dwindle. Price goes up. I mean, that's just kind of basic stuff there. ETH total value staked breached 4 million now. So that's continually rising. This is just ETH out of circulation. That's what you want to see. ETH TVL at 61 billion. At least, this is loose because it depends on how you count it. It depends on what you count. Do you count stable coins? Do you count just ETH? So keep in mind when people are quoting 60, 70, 80 billion, it's not really locked. It is on ETH. There's multiple caveats here. The bottom line is value is increasing. You can't really take that away from ETH. Where does it sit? It sits on Maker, Compound, Uniswap, Aave, Curve, Sushi, kind of the pillars of DeFi, if you will. So up and to the right, that's what you want to see. Here's Eth Minor Revenue according to coin metrics from the block, but April was another banger month for ETH miners, all-time high between transaction fees and block reward, mainly because of price, I believe, as far as why revenue is up so high and notionally surpassed 1.5 billion. So the miners are fat and happy. It's kind of switching gears to BTC. If we look at ETH and BTC adjusted on-chain volume, ETH is getting close to surpassing BTC. So you're going to start seeing more and more flippening narratives as far as valuation's concerned. People saying BTC should be worth less than ETH because less is happening there, yada, yada, yada. The thing with ETH that I think maybe not enough people realize is when it's bullish, yeah, it's great, right? It's like any altcoin. When altcoins are bullish, it's amazing. They outperform BTC. But when it's bearish, it also outperforms BTC and it gets crushed. So the real question is here, what happens when this stuff reverses? That's ultimately what I want to see is how does this survive a bear cycle post-January 2021? Can this hang on? Can ETH hang on to any of this, right? If you look at the ICO era, if you look at most altcoin eras, everything's great when we're bullish. The question is what happens when it's not, right? So long as Aave, or so long as not Aave, but DeFi continues to explode, transactions explode, that's incredibly healthy for ETH, definitely. If we look at transaction counts for BTC, they are a bit disrupted because of hash rate and difficulty have been super wacky. Average fees hit an all-time high. Not something you want to see, but it kind of is what it is. The network continues to adjust. Difficulty is still projected to be negative in the next couple weeks as far as the adjustment is concerned. If you look at active addresses and NVT way down, which means there's been a bunch of on-chain activity increasing relative to market cap. Active addresses down slightly because of that mining adjustment, difficulty adjustment as well. So things not as rosy as ETH, but nevertheless, active addresses mega all-time high for BTC. Transactions may never actually hit another all-time high just because of how things are done for BTC versus ETH, because of batching, because of SegWit, because of a variety of reasons, kind of layer 2-esque qualities. It's probably unlikely we see active addresses get up there ever again. Here's that mining difficulty, negative 6.6% still. So it's a bit fishy. It's a bit weird. We just had a difficulty adjustment and some miner was like, nope, we're pulling more hash rate, or they pulled hash rate for an emergency reason. I don't know. I don't think we ever know the full story on mining so long as some of it remains in China, but it's a bit weird if we put on our tinfoil hats. It's a bit weird that difficulty is due for another negative adjustment despite just adjusting negatively. So it's a group of miners or some miners had to remove hash rate for whatever reason, or did remove hash rate almost immediately after the difficulty adjustment. Bit strange, but it kind of is what it is, right? BTC exchange reserves, same thing as ETH. As ETH continue to dwindle, price continues to increase. Just basic stuff there. Really no commentary. I mean, that's what you expect to see. Minor outflows continue to just sit at baseline. Nothing crazy. And both of these are kind of hand in hand. If you see minor outflows increasing, you expect the exchange reserves to increase as well. All right, looking at Bitcoin charts, 2-year MA multiplier currently at, what is it, 83 as far as the high end? Yeah. So historically, we have exceeded that for 3 to 4 weeks. That's an N of 4. Again, just like ETH, buy zone is in the green, sell zone is in the red. So right now, upside is 83K plus. And if you like it, put a ring on it, buy and hold it, sell it above 83, right? It's kind of just is what it is. There's no excitement in my voice because I have no commentary, it's just math, I guess, right? 200-week moving average heat map still hasn't changed or adjusted. It is lukewarm. It is getting there, but it is not in the overheated territory. Puel multiple. This is minor daily coin issuance. Basically, if the miners get too fat and happy, historically, it's been a top because realistically, you get more sellers than buyers notionally, and then the price can't maintain that. We are on our way to the overbought conditions, but not quite there. So that looks fine and healthy. Stock to flow, which I haven't really looked at in a couple of weeks, but it is kind of right on the mark and matches the MA multiplier as far as expectations now of 83, 82 plus. And historically, we've actually overshot stock to flow several times as well. So it's not unrealistic that we overshoot for 3 to 4 weeks and then come back to that 83 level. This could be, 6 months from now, but I think it'll happen this year. I don't think it'll happen in 2022. I think it actually happens within the year, certainly the calendar year, 2021. Pi cycle top, man, this is glorious because I'll say a few words. Let's just all have a moment of silence for the Pi cycle top indicator. We hardly knew ye. We had 3 crosses historically, which had been the top to a 3 to 4 day accuracy. And we had another cross here recently, and it's now uncrossed. It said, no, we will not cross on this day. We will live to fight again. And all this is an MA multiplier with 111 MA cross, and it's just a back-tested cross, basically, that made sense. So it gets a bit messy here, right? Like, how do you interpret this? Are you supposed to sell? Are you supposed to buy back in? For me, it's like, okay, you take everything together. You can't just look at one thing and say, okay, this is it. I'm selling everything, right? That's just not how it works. MVRV, another inverse metric of economic utility relative to market cap, has dropped off pretty significantly and is reminiscent of 2017. There's really no other comparison you can make to that. 2017 had many of these peaks, troughs, naders, dips, rises, and eventually it told you pretty good. MVRV, maybe one of the better indicators for tops, says we got a 2x plus potential on MVRV relative to where we are now. HODL wave stuff, still 37% over the past 6 months. So how this works is we can measure every coin that's ever moved ever and look at its age. Historically, when 50% of the chain has moved in the past 6 months, that has represented a top in price, an all-time high in price. And currently we are in basically the 4th highest on-chain movement, but we're not to that 50% level yet. It's sitting at 37%. And a way to think about this is kind of like that minor supply-demand issue where if notional value is just too much, eventually the holders convert to sellers because it's life-changing money, right? Filthy fiat, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't want to die with BTC, right? That's certainly some people's mentality. They want to enjoy the gains while they're alive, so they convert to sellers. And this is what you get in the HODL wave. Eventually, you get more selling than buying, and that's basically the top. So putting it all together, following this week over week, we are, based on my humble analytic opinion, not at a top yet. I included NVT on here as well now, just for kind of S's and G's. I'm not really a big fan of it, but I know some people are. So we're looking good though. Looks like we got more in the tank. Let's get to some TA finally. Nearly, 17 minutes in now. We had this 4-hour inverted head and shoulders. It looked good. It was real. It broke up. I still like all-time high retest based on 1618 and measured move of the pattern, which has a diagonal neckline. So it's a bit weird to measure it, but that's kind of what I get if I split the difference between the high and the low. So that looks fine. And if we look on the 2-day, the time frame doesn't really matter. It's just the pitchfork really says we got plenty of room for upside. 70, 80, 90, 100, certainly in the cards for this year. I think the bigger question isn't, does it happen this year? The bigger question is, does it happen in Q2? It probably won't happen in Q3 because Q3 is horrible for crypto. Or does it happen in Q4? We have like 60 days to hit 100K if we're going to do it this quarter. If we do it in Q3, it'd be highly unlikely for seasonality reasons that happens. But if it happens, it happens. Currently, the support, the 200-day and the pitchfork median line is basically 33K. So all's well in Bitcoin land, but it definitely looks like we are headed for more. We are back for more in the Bitcoin land. Here's the 4-hour cloud broke out. So it's hard to be bearish on anything that looks like that. Probably the most impressive thing that happened that I'd kind of looked, I didn't really see any of this. We dipped into the cloud very quickly on the daily. We had this massive sell-off, and we bought it back up more ferociously than we sold it off. And we actually saved the TK cross here. The TK cross has remained bullish, and I think it'll remain bullish so long as we stay above it at this point. So all of this says game on. This still looks good for bullish continuation. Something that still remains as a possibility is this bearish edge-to-edge move. You have to get, and this is a great lesson in this trade, this was a stop out for the long. It was not a short entry because we did not have the bearish TK cross. If we get another cloud entry, which looks like this, a candle close within the cloud on the daily time frame with a bearish TK cross, that says expect a move to the other edge of the cloud. That is the definition of an edge-to-edge trade. Again, you can backtest that. These have a higher hit rate if you have a congruent TK cross. So you can kind of think of it as a bullish divergence. If we are into the cloud without a bearish TK cross, it says we're oversold, right? So we sold off too quick, bought back quicker, and we're kind of right back on track for more. I mean, that's really all it is. Here's the 12-hour. This is the daily singled cloud, and it's getting close to flipping everything bullish. So you can see it's reset completely. Bearish TK cross, bearish cloud, price below the cloud. What you're waiting for here is all of these signals to flip back bullish if you want to jump back in. If you got out, whatever, if you're not trading this head and shoulders, or if you're trading head and shoulders on leverage and you're deciding on whether or not to get back in a bigger way on spot or what have you, this is the type of thing I would look at is, have the 12-hour signals flipped bullish? We had a 1050 flip-flop crisscross as well. Again, another highly favorable back-tested signal that says bullish continuation is on its way. MACD has been flip-flopping, waffling back and forth, but is bullish once again. RSI on the daily hit its lowest level since March 2020, and it's back above 50. So collectively, it's hard to be bearish here with everything flipping back on the trend metrics to the right side of where you want to see it if you're bullish. Alligator Fractal, same thing. These have crossed bullish now after crisscrossing. And currently, you're either relonging immediately on the crisscross or you are waiting for new all-time highs, basically. And you'll get a new fractal probably eventually before we hit all-time highs. And that'll be the next long entry signal. Currently, if you're long, your stop loss is this fractal here at 51, whatever that is. And then lastly, on the weekly BTC looks better to me than ETH because, again, we've reset. So to me, it says the momentum potential is there for another move, more so than ETH. Maybe a bit of a catch-up trade. Maybe it's hopium. Maybe I'm just a maxi with the hopium RSI resetting as well. But this is what I want to see. I want to see retest of the 20 on the weekly. I want to see MACD flip red to green. I want to see RSI dip way back down, maybe even sub 60 ideally. I don't think it's going to get there now, but overall this looks great for bullish continuation. So it's hard not to be happy right now if you're in crypto. There's not really much to do other than sit and count your stacks, I guess. But that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Catch me on Weekly Open every Monday at 11. Catch me on Ledger Status on Fridays. And obviously, Brave New Coin. 12 videos a week for Brave New Coin. Happy trading.